Okay, good evening, friends from all around the world. I hope everyone is safe and doing well, especially when the situation of pandemic is getting worse. And I hope that everyone is excited for today's Q&A session with our guest speaker, Dr. Mark, who is also CellAge Plus product formulator. He is the founder, dean, and chairman of the board at the University of Natural Medicine in the USA and worldwide. Dr. Mark is now an international lecturer, researcher, and formulator of natural products for stem cell, functional and integrative medicine in Thailand, Malaysia, China, and other ASEAN countries, and of course, USA. Dr. Mark has been practicing integrative medicine for over 30 years, and he has traveled the world to the most remote jungles in South America, to some of the highest mountains in the world, searching for the most beneficial natural and beneficial substances and approaches for ultimate health. So do prepare to receive some revelations from Dr. Mark. Okay, without further ado, let's get right into the Q&A session. So I will start by asking a few questions to Dr. Mark, and then the Q&A session will be open to the floor, yeah? Well, I have received 10 questions on hand. Dr. Mark, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's go to the first question. Okay, does active protein synthesis ingredients cause uric acid? Is it okay for uric acid patient to consume CellAge Plus?
Well, first I'd like to welcome everyone tonight for taking your evening, or maybe it's your day, depending on where you are. It's a small planet, but it can be just about the opposite, depending on where we're located anyway. So either good evening or good morning or whatever it may be. It's a very good question because uric acid is a result of several things. Many times an individual is just not drinking enough water. That's the first thing you have to look at because you have to flush those uric acid crystals out of your body. They can come from eating the wrong foods, as you well know, too much proteins, maybe too much alcohol, tobacco, things of that nature. So you've got to get it out. The other thing is you really have to have better let's say digestion and assimilation of your proteins. I'm not sure what you'll have on your screen. I have Fusan. I don't know what's on your screen. Maybe I'm still there. Anyway, so yes, it's really beneficial because uric acid can create inflammation in the body, and inflammation leads to things like arthritic pains and gout. I'm sure you've all heard of gout. Well, a lot of that is the uric acid crystals that are building up in the, flowing around the bloodstream, building up in the tissues, and it can hurt, you know, they're like little sharp crystals that can cause a lot of pain, debilitating pain. Some people can't even walk with such bad gout, but it also can cause arthritis throughout the body. So the wonderful thing about CellAge Plus, one, it's an anti-inflammatory. We have herbs in there that are great for lowering the inflammation in the body, and that's one of the keys. The other thing is you're creating more of an alkaline system. I mean, they call it uric acid for a reason, you know, there's a lot of acidity in there. And this product is very alkalizing. Also, it helps in circulation. You know, a lot of times with uric acid, you're looking at the body just isn't circulating the blood enough and also the fluid in the body. That's why I say you got to drink a lot of good water when you have gout and uric acid buildup and things like that, because you got to flush the kidneys out. It can even lead to kidney stones. I mean, that's another problem with uric acid. But, you know, lay off the heavy proteins, get off the porks and the meats, and get more chicken and fish. Eggs are phenomenal for uric acid because they don't have those high purines. And don't worry about a good, wholesome egg. It's not going to cause bad cholesterol. It's going to cause good cholesterol. The problem with eating eggs is that the way people cook them, they'll fry them, you know, and in trans fatty oils and hydrogenated oils and such. And that's what causes the bad cholesterol more than the eggs. I mean, if you can get good, wholesome eggs, I mean, if you can get fertile, great. If not, it's hard to find. But good, wholesome eggs that come from chickens that aren't in these like hatcheries where they've got 6, 7, 8, 10 chickens to one cage. Oh, it's horrible what they do to all animals, but chickens too. And so, try to get good, healthy eggs. It's not that much more expensive. And you're going to get such better quality of nutrition from that yolk, even the whites. You're going to get so much more nutritious nutrition and vitamins and minerals and such from a good, wholesome egg. And, I don't know what's best. Many people say poach. Many people say soft boiled. Some people say hard boiled. But I think the softer it is, the better. And I'll be honest, if I get a good, wholesome, organic egg, sometimes I'll put a raw one into my smoothie in the morning. I want to make sure it's come from a good source because bad eggs are bad eggs. So to speak. I mean, you always heard that term. Oh, he's just a bad egg. Well, they do exist out there. So, but there was. I'll tell you a story. There's a lady who lived to be maybe she's still living, but she was 110, and they asked her. He says, "What do you attribute your longevity to?" Says, when I was 8 years old, my natural doctor had me take 3 raw eggs a day. Says my whole life I've had 3 raw eggs a day because of my anemia. She never had anemia again. She's 111. She has no cholesterol problems. She has no cataracts, things of that nature. So it's not the egg. I just want to make that clear. It's a really good, wholesome food. So don't worry about the cholesterol. With uric acid, like I said, it's a phenomenal product for uric acid because it's a protein in it that is low in purine. It has the anti-inflammatories, the antioxidants, and it has the elements in it which create and assist in protein digestion. You've got thousands of enzymes in your body. It's not just digestive enzymes. You got digestive, metabolic, cellular, antioxidants. Those are enzymes, believe it or not. So we've got to feed those enzymes. What they take is a particular combination of amino acids. Well, our product has been formulated to be able to create those enzymes in the body. So that's one of the keys. And overall, you're going to increase your circulation. You're going to get better assimilation, digestion, so you don't have that uric acid byproduct so much. And you're going to get the stem cells that feed your kidneys and every cell in your body so they're functioning better. Because this product feeds your cells. And I know you can't sit there and measure your cells and gauge your cells, but I can tell you, we did a study at Emory University School of Medicine with some of the ingredients in the product. And we showed that through this, it's called an MTT colorimeter. It's one of the few instruments in the world that actually measures cellular energy. And we showed that we could increase cellular energy by 54% with those ingredients in the product. So right there was scientific evidence. And that's Emory University School of Medicine. That's one of the most respected medical schools possibly in the world in Atlanta, Georgia. So yeah, it's phenomenal for it. And there's no uric acid in the product. I don't think any at all. So, okay. Amy, Dr. Amy?
All right. Thank you, Dr. Mark.
Oh, you're back.
Okay, that's all for your answer. That's all, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, then let's go to question number 2. Okay, a 50 years old lady with liver hemangioma, okay, at her right lobe, about 7 cm. And she has been facing sleeping disorder for a year. Okay, can she inject vaccine?
Well, let me just get into hemangiomas. They're not cancerous. I mean, they call them non-cancerous, benign, which means benign means they're not malignant. Hemangioma is basically what we call a coagulation of blood. Your circulation is stagnant. You know, you need to look at really increasing your circulation, alkalizing your body as much as possible. And when it comes to, I mean, hemangioma, you can live with it. It's basically there. It's not life threatening. You know, if it gets too big, then you have to deal with it. But if it's a smaller size, then what you need to do is just increase your circulation throughout your body. Get more exercise, of course, drink more water, and eat foods that are uh, less blood coagulating, because that's the problem. It's almost like a varicose vein in some respects. You're not getting the flow, you know, it's like the heart pumping and keeping the blood flowing. You've got to have that going on in your body, or it coagulates. You know, it's kind of like coagulated blood. It just collects in an area, and the blood vessels, and they interlap, and they're just not moving. And you know, whatever you do, if you drink any alcohol at all, please cut back. I mean, that's very important. If you smoke, cut it out altogether, because you need to do everything you can to keep your circulation flowing and get some good exercise. Do deep breathing. Do whatever type of stretching exercises you can. But you got to get that liver moving. You know, that's one of the keys. Now, when it comes to vaccinations, I'm not a licensed medical doctor, particularly in Malaysia anymore. I'm semi-retired, but I really can't give you recommendations there. What you need to do is consult with your physician. In my opinion, it's up to you. I just really, I'm not in a situation where I can recommend or otherwise with vaccinations. So that's something you should really consult your doctor about.
All right, we understand that.
Make sure it's not contraindicated. And you know, there's many types of vaccines out there too. So you need to research and explore which one would be most suitable for you too. Because, oh my gosh, we could go over all of them that are available now. I don't know how many are available here in Malaysia, but there's more coming. So, but look at which ones are most going to benefit you, because you don't want one that's going to coagulate your blood anymore. You know, so you need to make sure that's not one of the side effects.
All right, thank you, Dr. Mark. And also, the same lady, her body always feel heaty, sometimes even having fever after taking CellAge Plus for 3 months. You know, her fever will be subsided if she reduce the dosage from 2 sachet to 2 sachet a day. So what is your opinion and what is your advice?
I would reduce it to 2 a day until you don't have the fever anymore. The fever is basically you're feeding your thyroid and it's circulating. It's helping. In fact, I would just bet if you would have uh, tested the size, I mean, I would just imagine of the hemangioma before you started CellAge Plus, and now, or within a year of doing it every day, to measure the size again, and I bet it's reduced. I would just count on it. And I can't guarantee it, of course, but it's just the way the product is designed is to help in that situation. Now, so the fever is the body increasing. Now, let me say something about fever. A fever is a wonderful process of the body to burn off toxins. Now, I think with time, your fever or your heat, I mean, there are some heaty herbs in there, and they're in there for a purpose to increase circulation. And it's a balance of hot and cold in there. We don't, you know, it's warming and cooling herbs. So because the wheatgrass and some of the other ones are very cooling herbs. But in some, it's going to do that, especially initially, because a fever is meant to burn off toxins. You know, we had a clinic we had to do it in Mexico because U.S. wouldn't allow us to do some of the therapies we were doing. So our clinic was across the border in Mexico, an international health retreat facility. And one therapy we had for many conditions, it was called hyperthermia, Hyperthermia, which is increasing the heat in the body, and we would kill some cancer cells. I can't say we cured anybody. We don't cure anybody. That's not our purpose. But we enhance the body's ability to overcome its imbalance and to regenerate new cells. So I think it will dissipate and it'll reduce over time. But for now, cut back to where it's comfortable. There's no hurry. Your condition, everybody's toxicity took many years to accumulate. And it's not necessarily going to disappear overnight. This is not a drug. A drug has an immediate reaction, okay? It's going to change what's happening in the body to another state. It's not necessarily reversing that disease, but it's changing the state. So that's why so many drugs can actually have many side effects, because that's what they do. But they also have, of course, many benefits as well. So over time, I feel that will reduce. Now, also, I remember you mentioned about a sleep disorder. And the thing about sleeping is, as we get older, we produce less and less melatonin. In fact, all of our hormone production, it reduces, it dissipates over a period of time. Same way our stem cells do, which is interesting. As we get older, our stem cells decline. As we get older, our hormone production declines. That's why a lot of people, particularly people who are going through menopause and such, and menopause, andropause too, they have a harder time sleeping because, for one, they're not producing as much melatonin. And that's very important. You might have heard of melatonin supplements, and that might help you. But the great thing about our product is it helps the organs balance to where they can produce more of the hormones, which is one of the key, because those hormones require amino acids too, So we provide the right balance and the bioavailable amino acids for your body to produce those hormones. So that's one of the keys, whether it's estrogen, testosterone, or progesterone, or melatonin, or thyroxine, whatever it may be, the pituitary, pituitrophin, pineal with the melatonin, all of those. This product can help with that, because we're also not only giving the cells the energy they need, but we're giving them the materials they need to produce new cells. Hormones are cells too. Everything in your body is cells. So over time, it can help. Now, the one thing I hear so much, not all the time, but I hear a little bit, somewhat frequently, is that, well, I'm taking the product and I don't feel anything. Well, I don't know that I feel anything when I take it, but I tell you what I don't feel. I don't feel any bad things. It's a wonderful preventative, and it's a builder, okay? It's like you envision a house. You're not going to build that house in 1 minute. It takes time to build things back, especially, let's say the house is falling. It's falling apart. You've got to rebuild it, regenerate it. That's what you're doing with the CellAge Plus, is you're rebuilding over time. And you'll find that you have less and less propensity, or less and less possibility of diseases and such. Your immune system is going to be stronger. You'll feel better over a period of time. And you're going to build and build and build. And that's what it's all about. There's a lot of products out there on the market. And there's a lot of hype, and great sales, great marketing, and all of that. But do they have the research, to prove it? We have the research on every ingredient in our formulation as to why it's beneficial, and proven why it's beneficial through scientific research. So it's validated. It's not hype. So I think over a period of time, I think your sleep will get better. I find some people who say, oh, I take it before I go to bed at night, and I sleep great. If I took it before I went to bed at night, I'd be up all night howling at the moon, because I get energy from it. I put it in my smoothie in the morning, and if I think about it, I take it in the afternoon. So, it's just, everybody's different. Everybody has a different constitution. And that's what I've learned over my 40 years of practicing integrated medicine. Is what works for some people in one way may not work for another person the same way. Some people may be able to take 4 a day, like Dr. Amy does. Some people may only be able to use one initially and build up. Because the more you take, the better you're going to feel because it's a food. This isn't like a drug. It is a food. In fact, that's how we have it registered. It's a food supplement. Well, not supplement, just a food. And so formulation, and that's what it is. You can't get too much. That's the great thing about it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Let's go to three. Question number three. Can CellAge Plus help on acid reflux diseases? How many sachets a day and advisable to take before or after food?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple of things I'd like to say about acid reflux. For one, chew your food as much as you can because you've got digestive enzymes. You're chewing, your saliva is alkaline. You have to have alkaline to be able to initiate the acid production from your stomach to digest your food. I mean, they call it acid reflux, but basically it's almost a deficiency of acidity. You're not digesting the food. That acid, when it goes into the small intestine, it initiates the small intestine to produce its alkaline enzymes. So chew your food. And the other thing, do never drink ice or cold drinks with your meals. It's the worst thing you can do. What happens is that the cold suppresses your digestive juices. People don't realize that. They think, oh, it feels so good to wash it all down. And I think I won't compare, but people I've seen around the world, they're like, I don't want to say they're like dogs, but they love to just shovel food, just shovel. It's too bad because they don't even get to taste it. And people who don't chew their food tend to eat more because they don't get satisfied as quick. So if you chew and chew and chew your food, you'll find out you need less because you're getting more nutrition. You're not getting as much acid buildup in the system because you're digesting your food better because you've already pre-digested it. Those things are so important. Now with the product, it's going to help a lot because as I mentioned, with the product, we have the right amino acids to help you form the enzymes you need. The other thing is that you are also, not only with the enzymes, but you're able to take the bioavailable amino acids and create those enzymes and also alkalize your system in the long run. I'm not saying that when you take it with food or whatever, that you're going to immediately alkalize your system. It's alkaline forming. It's kind of like an example is everybody thinks of a lemon being acid, right? But it creates an alkaline ash in the body. It alkalizes the body. That's why it's such a great for detoxing the body, lemon and lime and such. So that's mostly how I feel about that. And I would really look at some of the foods you're eating to see what may be causing acid reflux and what doesn't. And as I said, if you're drinking cold drinks, please stop. If you're drinking a lot of pop, you think carbonated beverages help, just the opposite. It's the worst thing you can possibly do. And the other thing, which I have to say about it all while I'm harping on it, one cola, one pop, and even a lot of these green tea drinks now, like Uric, I won't mention names, they may sue me. They can contain up to 10 teaspoons of sugar. Every can. Can you imagine that? Taking 10 teaspoons of sugar and putting it in water and drinking it. That's basically what you're doing. Plus, you're taking in phosphoric acid, which is another acidic formula. And it just sucks the minerals right out of your body. I mean, you're talking about osteoporosis and Alzheimer's and everything coming as a result. So it's a poison. It's a toxin. I hate to tell you, but it is. I know it can taste wonderful. So as much as you can. I was just reading a book recently by an individual. He's I think he's 80 now, and he's just as healthy as can be. He hasn't been sick in 40 years. He almost died 40 years ago. They asked him, he said, well, what's your secret to being so healthy? He says, I never eat sugar. He said, what do you mean you never eat sugar? He says, I never eat sugar. I never drink concentrated fruit juices because they're loaded full of sugar. He says, I always eat the fruit. He says, I never eat sugar by itself. says because even 1 teaspoon of sugar a day reduces your immune function by half. Imagine that. I mean, especially right now with COVID, you know, we, if you're reducing your immune system by half, those are your defenses. We did a whole evening once, we called Dr. Amy, on how to prepare and build up your immune system and how CellAge Plus is very, very formulated for building up your immune system. I won't get into it too much tonight. You can go back, and I think all of the videos are available, but I would recommend watching it because there's a lot of good information on there and about how this product really, really builds your immune system. And I haven't heard of anybody to date yet getting serious COVID who's taken the CellAge Plus. And we hope we never hear, but that's 100% record there, you know? So anyway, but I hope that answered your question. Oh, you need to turn your mic on, Amy.
All right, all right. Then, okay, thank you, Dr. Mark. Questions number 4. As we understand that vaccine trains our immune system to pre-recognize the virus, if only taking CellAge Plus and without vaccination, can our immune system able to fight over COVID-19 immediately or need sometimes to figure out the intruder before activating the defense system?
Well, like I said earlier, I won't get into vaccines. That's for you and your doctor to discuss. Vaccinations. I will say this about our product is that you can only enhance your immune system, and you're going to help your body produce more antibodies, produce more antigens, and activate your immune system even stronger. You know, you have 3 lines of defense. The first one basically is your external defense, and internal too. You know, the cilia in the lungs, the skin, your breathing, so many, let's say, physical barriers to that disease or that virus, pathogen, whatever it may be, taking over our body. You know, the microbiome, the beneficial bacteria in our body is so important in our whole immune system. I mean, you may want to look up the Peyer's patch sometime in the intestine, Peyers, to see how important that is in our whole immune system. So, and that's where CellAge Plus is very, very beneficial for the whole microbiome. The second level is where you build up your macrophages, your lymph, your white blood cells, your red blood cells. And then the third stage is your CD4, CD8, T cells, things of that nature, which are built up to fight that particular microorganism. Well, you know, you've got to have the right kind of food in order to be able to build those antibodies, right? To build the antigens, to build your immune system. So all those cells, you need cell food. Let me give you a prime example. Okay, when we did our stem cell study in both America and in Asia, excuse me, I need some water. At first, we did the blood. We took blood, then we had individual take the product, and then go out, come back 5 hours later, and test their blood again for stem cells before and after. In only 5 hours, we were able to increase the stem cell count. I mean, this is using one of the foremost stem cell counters, diagnostics. It's called flow cytometry and a stem cell sorter. We were able to increase the stem cells in the body by up to 4 times, 5 hours. I called Dr. Steele, our associate, the co-formulator of the product, and I said, Dr. Steele, how is this possible? How could they digest that product so quick and have so many stem cells? She says, oh, no. She says, your stem cells are hibernating. They're hibernating because they're not getting the food they need to perform their activities. She says, what we did is we provided them with the pure cell food they needed to wake them up, okay? That's what you're doing with your immune system. You are feeding your stem cells, your cells throughout your whole body, your trillions of cells, so they have the energy they need to do their job, which is part of our product, and the amino acids to build new cells, because you've got to produce billions, maybe trillions every day. So many die, so many are reborn. And you need the material to create new ones. Regeneration is what it's called. You know, if we're not regenerating, we're degenerating. And I haven't been a degenerate since I was in high school. So so anyway, what we need to do is enhance our immune system, and it can only assist, is what I want to say. It can only enhance and assist the effect a vaccination has. You still need the right kind of food. Let's say somebody who has a terrible diet, is an alcoholic, smokes all the time, and maybe diabetic, and so they're not utilizing their sugars properly, and they're, you know, have metabolic syndrome going on. The vaccination, I mean, that's what they're finding in America now. Many people who've gotten vaccinated are still getting COVID. And I tend to think it's people who just are not building up their immune system along with taking the vaccination. So that's how I feel about it.
All right, next. A patient's blood test report showing allergy to herbs. Do you advise her to take CellAge Plus?
It depends on which herb she's allergic to. The Well, if there's an herb in there that she's allergic to, then what I would do is I would start off with just a very, very small amount and build up and see if you have any reaction to it. I don't know, you know, what kind of allergies you're having, what kind of symptoms, but you would look at those symptoms and see if it's exasperating it, if it's intensifying it. If it is, cut back, cut back, cut back. The thing about it is there may be something in there that you're allergic to, and but this is going to help your system in so many ways. Many allergies are a result of what's called leaky gut syndrome. I don't know if you've heard of that before, but it's small holes in your small intestine where when you eat a food, it just goes immediately into the bloodstream before it's fully metabolized, and it causes a reaction, you know, increased histamine, increased allergic reaction to that foreign invader in the blood. So what this does is we have ingredients in there that actually heal the endothelial tissue, which help with healing that leaky gut. So over a period of time taking this product, you're probably going to see that your allergies to many, many things dissipate. You know, I used to be extremely allergic to eggs, which was horrible when I was younger. Eggs, bananas, and wheat. Well, I hardly ever eat wheat anymore because I think it's a dead food. It's a genetically modified food, which our immune system is going to react to, and it's all rancid. And I just would tell everybody to avoid wheat because it's just not good for you. Unfortunately now, I think most noodles, instant noodles, are made from wheat instead of rice. Rice is a wonderful food. Rice is one of God's gift to humanity. Look how many years, particularly Asians, have survived on rice, and they didn't have a lot of the problems we have today until they started processing that rice, until they started putting glyphosate on it, the Roundup, until they started putting so much arsenic on it. I mean, so many things, you know, that they've done to monkey with rice. It used to be such a pure, pure food. Well, the rice in our product is, we have over, it may be, I forget how many thousands of contracted farmers in northern Thailand, organic farmers, and we make 100% sure they're doing everything organic. We have EU certification, we have US certification, and Thailand organic certification to make sure it's grown 100% organically from the moment they plant it in the ground to the moment that it's processed, ground. Even the factories have to be organic. There's one factory or one mill that they have two separate mills because they mill rice in one that's non-organic, and then they have a separate mill they built just for our organic rice. So they keep them separate. It's amazing. So, but anyway, and this is a non-hybrid strain of rice too. So very, very important. And what else was I going to say about that? I kind of got off track about the organic rice. Did I answer the question?
Yep. Yeah, I think they understand. Okay. So next, um, how does CellAge Plus help on lymphoma cancer?
Well, let me say this. CellAge Plus does not help any disease, okay? This is a food. It's like saying eating apples, taking oats. Oats every day is going to lower your cholesterol, but it's what the body does with it. That's what's important. This is a food, okay? It's a concentrated food, which is wonderful. Synergistically balanced. Synergistically means everything works together. They're not opposing each other. We spent a lot of many months and years actually in the development of different parts of this formulation to make sure that it was 100% safe and that it was synergistically balanced in how your body utilizes it. So that's the key, is having that synergistic balance. Now, it's a food. What it's going to do, you said lymphoma, right? Dr. Amy, you said lymphoma? Yeah. Yeah, lymphoma can come about. You've got a lot of toxicity in your system. Anybody who has lymphoma, not necessarily you, whoever we're talking to, but there's a lot of toxins. Your immune system is overacting there, and it's usually, affecting the whole lymph, the red blood cells, the white blood cells, and such. What's great about CellAge Plus is, for one, I don't want to call it a detox formula, but it's going to lower inflammation. Let me say this about inflammation. Inflammation can be the main cause of almost every disease today, whether it's cancer, whether it's Alzheimer's, whether it's heart disease, whether it's diabetes. Particularly in heart disease, you can have high cholesterol and have high LDL, low HDL, but what you have to test is what's called CRP, C-reactive protein, and homocysteine. Those check the inflammation, because it's the inflammation in the body that's causing the blockages and the damage to the blood vessels for strokes or whatever it may be. So it's so important to reduce that inflammation. Very, very key in any type of disease in the body. With lymphoma, you really need to look at getting toxins out of your body, because they're there for a reason. They're building up an army there to fight something, to get rid of something. They're trying to excrete, detox, and it's an inflammatory condition. It's similar to COVID in some respects. I mean, not similar, but this is what's happening, is the body, it's an autoimmune response. It's kind of like in COVID. COVID now is pretty much, they found, an inflammation. The virus creates what they call a cytokine storm. That's where the body is attacking it, and basically it attacks itself, and it creates this inflammation. This inflammation creates congestion. And the long-term effects they're seeing of COVID-19 and now the mutations as well, the variants, it can be very debilitating. You're looking at degeneration of the heart, the brain, the tissues, the blood. That's why it's so important right now to take CellAge Plus, because you're going to be able to keep rebuilding the healthy cells in there and lowering that inflammation so that you're maintaining a balance and a state of health. Like I said, this is not a drug. I was saying the other day, this doesn't cure anything, but it helps everything because it's what the body does with those materials. It's what it does. Everybody has within them what's called the innate wisdom. All all right? That's where if you take in a food, your body knows what to do with it. Let's say you're taking in a toxin, your body is going to react to it. You know, you're taking in wheat. What happens with a lot of people who eat wheat or sometimes drink a lot of milk? They're getting a lot of congestion, all this mucus is building up. The mucus is trying to get rid of it, That's one action that happens. It's kind of like a fever I was mentioning earlier in a cold. That's a natural reaction. Of course, if the fever gets too high, you've got to reduce it because then it can be damaging. There's a certain level there. You have to really monitor it. But if it's in a certain range, it can be burning off toxins. Mucus, colds. Sometimes it's good to get a cold because it's a wonderful way of getting rid of toxins. So it's not necessarily a bad thing all the time. Unfortunately, with other viruses, flus and such, that they can be very debilitating. They can overcome the body and overcome the immune system because we don't have good, strong immune systems. Well, I won't say that. Some people don't have good, strong immune systems because they're not getting the right nutrients to build that immune system, and they're depleting it with too much alcohol. One of the worst things, and I always say this, any individual can do, and I know it's going to touch a chord out there with some people, is smoking. All right, tobacco is a wonderful herb. The Native American Indians smoked tobacco since they first met white people, no problems whatsoever, until they started monkeying with it and putting 100 plus carcinogenic chemicals in there to hook people on cigarettes for one, and then also to make it burn faster and to all preserve it. I mean, this 100 cancer causing chemicals in cigarettes. I won't say tobacco, cigarettes, cigars, whatever they may be. That's what's killing people, With cigarettes, you can just count on not living as long, and also you're going to have more degenerative disease. I have some people when I'm lecturing the last 40 years, they say, oh, well, my grandpapa, he's 98 and he smokes every day. And I said, does he roll his own? Well, yeah, he always rolls his own. He gets good pure tobacco. He grows his own. I'm from Kentucky, and we're a tobacco country. I used to raise tobacco, and I know how many chemicals go into raising it. It's horrific. Oh my gosh, I'm still getting it out of my system, from raising tobacco on a farm we had. But so I just want to discourage that as much as possible, as well as all the toxic metals in there. Oh, the cadmiums, it used to be lead, the arsenics, all of those. Those are cellular blocks. They block cellular function. So you're killing cells every time you take a puff. Okay, plus you're depleting your oxygen, and oxygen is a spark of life. So I'm through chastising, I'm through lecturing on smoking, but that's just one thing, because it killed my mom and my papa, so I know how bad it can be, and I've seen it. It's just debilitating. It's one of the most horrific diseases you can have, the cancer from smoking. So just keep that in mind. Okay. Did that answer your question?
Yep. Thank you very much. Okay, next. Can G6PD patients consume CellAge Plus? As we understand that G6PD patients are usually allergic with bean protein.
Yeah. Well, I will say this. We have some pea protein in the CellAge Plus, and one reason is because it's a very hypoallergenic protein, and there's not that much in it. But now with G6PD, you could be allergic, particularly fava beans. Fava is the big one with G6PD. You got to avoid those, the broad bean, like the plague. And it's basically a genetic disease, and it has a lot to do with the enzyme deficiency too, I feel. But I'm not an expert on G6PD, but I do know that what you might want to do is, as I mentioned earlier, try just a little bit at a time and see if you have any reaction to it, see what kind of problems it may create. And I'll be honest, you may not be able to take it. We're not going to take the pea protein out of there because we wanted to have that protein in there as well. But I will say this, there's very minimal amount there in ratio to the other ingredients in the CellAge Plus. But try it. See how how it affects you, because that's one of the things with anything is if you feel you have an allergy to it, and this is one thing that can happen with allergies, which I'll mention to the individual earlier. For a while, avoid that food altogether. Then slowly introduce it back into your diet a little bit at a time. Like I said before, I had a major egg allergy, and now I eat eggs all the time. It's so wonderful. I love them. And it took getting rid of the leaky gut syndrome, that problem that was happening, and reducing my inflammation and increasing my enzyme function. So that over a period of time, it's great. So with the pea protein, there may be a reaction. Try it a little bit. It's not going to. I don't think it's going to put you into anaphylactic shock or something of that nature. What little is there, but do be cautious, okay? Because not many people I've come across in 40 years have that condition.
So sorry. Okay, come to the next questions. Can cancer patient who is undergoing chemotherapy consume CellAge?
Well, anyone who's going through chemotherapy for cancer, you need to consult with your physician. You know, there's so many circumstances there. I don't know what the cancer is, what type of chemo they're taking. Um, you know, basically with chemo, it's there to kill the cells. Now, the one thing about radiation, chemo, whatever that might be, you need to regenerate those cells. You know, it's so often we hear people who've had chemo and radiation and maybe said, well, you know, you're cured. You don't have any more cancer in your body, and then 6 months, 1 year later, it's somewhere else. It's because the regeneration didn't happen. Now your doctor may say wait until after the chemo, before you do it. I will say this: you can help detox your body quicker taking the chemo, and it depends on the type of cancer. That's what's very important to know. And so I couldn't give you advice on that, but you should discuss it with your doctor and make it very clear to your doctor that this is just a food. This is a cell food. And it also can increase stem cells. And so you may say, well, no, we don't want that. You have leukemia. Maybe it might start feeding more, creating more white blood cells, something of that nature. But in most instances, I would say, yeah, you don't stop eating food when you do chemo. And with chemo, it can really destroy your appetite too. And so this may be some good nutrition for you while you're going through chemo, but that's up to your doctor to decide. It's kind of too bad in some respects that in America now, and even in Thailand is doing such incredible research because they're doing a lot of cannabis research right now, and that's showing that the cannabis can help increase your appetite with chemo. And you can't imagine how many people in America now, probably, I don't know what percent, who are taking chemo or also doing the cannabis, have medical certificate, medical prescription to take the cannabis, either eating or smoking, but better to eat it, putting candy in it. But that's another story. Can't do that in Malaysia, that's for sure. But this may be a real blessing for you because it's providing the nutrients that you're not getting, because usually with chemo, your appetite just plunges. So, but talk to your doctor.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Mark. Next, a 78 years old diabetic patient who needs insulin every day. Blood sugar increase after taking CellAge. What is your advice?
For one, you need to test at the same time every day, okay? Very, very important that you do first thing in the morning before you consume or drink anything, and you do that on a regular basis to compare. As soon as you take it, if you were to take the CellAge Plus and then take your blood sugar, yeah, it's going to be higher because we have berries in there and a little, even rice has carbohydrate. I mean, so anytime you eat a food, I see this a lot with, and I'm not criticizing you at all, um, but that they take their blood sugar throughout different times of the day or after eating a food. I can take my blood sugar after eating, and my blood sugar is going to be a lot higher than it is normally. You know, I mean, I'm not diabetic at all. I have a perfect blood sugar. We use different. I'm about 90. I guess that'd be about 3.5, maybe 4. I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up. But um, but if I were to eat something and then take my blood sugar 20, 30 hour later, it's going to be high. It could run up to 7 or 8, you know, maybe 10, maybe 12. So make sure you take it on an empty stomach. That's your blood sugar, your test, and not right after you take the product. There are a berry concentrate in there, which has some sugars in it. And there is a little xylitol, which the reason we use xylitol is because it's been proven to be okay for diabetics. But you may need to cut back a little bit if it's really affecting your blood sugar that much. And you may have a slower insulin, you're taking insulin, so definitely you're not utilizing your blood sugar very well. That's great. You're 78 and doing well, so I'm glad to hear that. So take a little bit. There again, cut back a lot, but like I said, make sure you test your blood in the morning, same time before you eat or drink anything. And if you had a big heavy meal the night before with a lot of carbs or and sugar, that could affect it too. So look at all the factors there, and if it's affecting your blood sugar that way, and you know that's what it is, then you may not be able to take CellAge Plus. But most diabetics, if not, well, most, I can't say all, we don't hear about everybody. We have not seen one single problem. In fact, we've helped a lot of people. One of the ingredients in there, we did a study with 700 plus people in Thailand with diabetes, and we showed that we could decrease every one of them symptoms from diabetes. You know, diabetes may be the #1 killer in the world. When you look at diabetes and you look at the other degenerative diseases, I mean, look at the kidney problems, look at the heart problems, look at even the Alzheimer's and even the cancers, they all increase with people who have diabetes. So, you know, it may be the precursor to a lot of that because it's all hyperinsulinemia. You know, it's metabolic syndrome. You're not metabolizing those sugars properly. So, but with the study, not only that, but we were able to reduce people's insulin intake and their blood sugar significantly, everywhere from 10, 30, 90 days up to, we went 120 days, I think it was. It's been so long ago. Gosh, that was 15 years ago. But so we know the products in there can help with blood sugar, but this one may not be right for you, but do try it and do take your blood sugar at the right times. See how it goes.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Mark. Okay, next questions. How can CellAge Plus help on lupus patient? As lupus and
Lupus?
autoimmune disease. Yeah, lupus.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned earlier, of course, lupus is an autoimmune disease. It's the body attacking yourself because there's toxins in there and you need to get rid of those toxins. Inflammation builds because it's trying to get the toxins out of the system. You know, that's part of the key. And, you know, so much. We had so many patients at our retreat center in Kentucky many years ago. And what we would do is we would clean up their liver, clean up their diet, clean out their
Hello?
hello? Oh, okay, clean out their bowels. Very important that you have all of your eliminative channels working so well so you get it out. Then you need to lower that inflammation. Why do you know, usually with lupus, what do they give you? Steroids, right? Anti-inflammatories. Our product has some of the best anti-inflammatories in a food source, okay? The concentrated herbs, you know, like the curcumin and things of that nature, quercetin. but they help so much with that inflammation that I think it would benefit you significantly.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Mark. Okay, another questions. The person take CellAge Plus for past 2 months, but got reading for H. pylori.
I'm sorry,
Reading
could you
of
start over? Dr. Emmy, I couldn't hear part of that. Could you start over, please?
okay, a person takes CellAge Plus for past 2 months.
Yep.
He has been taking CellAge Plus for 2 months. Okay, but got reading for H. pylori reading of 6. Do the person into need to take antibiotic? Can CellAge Plus prevent it in future from his H. pylori?
Um,
Can't hear me, right?
yeah, I did. I got it. I was just laughing at the person who came in. I was trying to figure out what they were doing, but anyway, H. pylori is basically Heliobacter pylori. It's a bacteria, as I recall, but I know H. pylori is very, very predominant in Asia. Maybe as much so in America and other countries, but I don't think they test as much as they do. But it's been shown to be very, very pervasive throughout China, which is quite interesting. And it's very contagious too, from what they say. H. pylori, this is not an antibacterial, okay? I mean, I would do something like colloidal silver or something like that. And of course, you're taking the antibiotic. You have to realize the antibiotic is going to really disrupt your GI flora, your microbiome. It's going to kill your beneficial bacteria as well as trying to kill the H. pylori. Of course, you have to take it for a while in order to kill the H. pylori, and also make sure that nobody around you. You have to test everybody else too. You may be in direct contact with, because they could transfer it back to you. You know, you just keep going back and forth and back and forth. So you have to make sure that that's taken care of. I'm sure your doctors talk to you about that. But taking the CellAge Plus is only going to help because you're going to be feeding the beneficial bacteria. We have a prebiotic in there and probiotic, which means you're going to be feeding those billions of billions. Do you realize you have more bacteria in your body than you have cells? You have 10 to the 14 times. Put 14 zeros on there times 10. That's how much they approximate the bacteria in your body. Can you imagine that? I'll do it sometime, but I think that's in the millions, if not, I mean, trillions, if not zillions. Anyway, so what you have to do is rebuild the beneficial bacteria in there, because that's your immune system, that's your digestion, that's so much of what's going on in your whole body. Your GI tract is everything. Antibiotics are notorious for destroying that, and that's why that birth control pills, steroids, things of that nature can really disrupt that balance. So where your bad bacteria can come in, the fungus come in. You know, look at so many people who take antibiotics and they get a yeast infection. You know why? Well, there's theories about it, but what my teacher always told me, he lived to be 107, and then he decided he just wanted to go, but yeah, who knows how long he would have lived. But I always used to say, hey, you know what it's all about? Those bacteria are very smart. What they're going to do, you may be killing some, but a lot of them are changing forms. It's called pleomorphism, and they've shown that on the microscope. Those bacteria are so smart. You know what they do? They become virus. They become fungus. They become yeast. Isn't that interesting? You may never hear that very often, but in Germany they know. Some of the foremost scientists in the world know. It's called pleomorphism. So why do we get so much yeast all of a sudden? Well, we have yeast in our body all the time. It's always there, just like we have bacteria all the time. We probably have virus all the time too. It's our immune system is keeping it in check. You know, I've been thinking, we've all been exposed to COVID. It's everywhere. I mean, how do you not avoid it? It's just our body is able to resist it. Somebody may not agree with that. That's up to them. But anyway, so what happens is they change forms completely. They've seen it on the microscope. Bacteria just turn into a fungus and back. So they escape. Then when the antibiotics out of their system, they go back to being the bacteria again. So, but you may have killed that particular one, but you've also killed so many of the beneficial ones. So be sure and replenish that. Do a lot of miso. Do a lot of things like kimchi. I don't believe in yogurt these days because it's all cooked. How can you have any live bacteria left if they pasteurize it? There are some good kefirs here I've seen. I've tried them and they're good. But these commercial yogurts are, I hate to say it, but I don't know if you're getting anything out of them other than a lot of mucus from the milk. But you can get beneficial. You can even take a probiotic. You can get some from the health food store. Usually get one in the refrigerated section. But our product feeds your beneficial bacteria in there. And we actually have what's called the chlorella growth factor, which was shown to increase the beneficial bacteria by up to 400% in the body, which is just phenomenal. So, do what you can to replenish all of those. And no, the CellAge Plus is not going to knock it out. It may enhance your immune system so much that it would take care of it, but I wouldn't trust that. I would just get rid of it. And there are natural ways, but you're taking the antibiotics to do so, but then build your system back up, balance it back up as quick as possible.
Okay, Dr. Mark, we are now a lot of questions from the floor. Okay. Next questions. This CellAge contain some sweetness when we consume. The sweetness from the xylitol. Yes. Why xylitol is added into the formula? There are so many types of sweetness and sugar alcohol around. Why you choose xylitol as the ingredients?
Xylitol has been shown to be probably the best sugar for diabetics that we've researched. It doesn't seem to spike. It's got a low, what's the index? It's escaping me right now. Low glucoindex, I forget what it's called. Very, very low. And so it doesn't tend to spike sugar like all the other sugars do. Really watch out for the artificial sweeteners. Oh my God, NutraSweet's one of the worst things you could take. It's horrible. There's been hundreds of side effects shown to NutraSweet and aspartame. These diet pops are one of the worst things you could take. Anything that says diet that has aspartame in it, it's toxic. It's a neurotoxin. I could tell you a long story. I guess we have time. But the individual who developed aspartame, who got it approved first in America, his name was Donald Rumsfeld. He actually was the Attorney General or Defense Secretary for George Bush for a long time. He's one of those that did the whole wars on for Iraq and all of that. But anyway, another story. But they knew he was also the head of FDA at one time. And they knew all these side effects from aspartame and NutraSweet. He had shares in the company and they approved it. And it's still approved. I at our clinic in Kentucky once, we had a child come in on a hot summer day. I think it was 4th of July, whatever. And he was in a coma. And I asked the mom, I said, what'd you do today? I think the kid was only about 7 or 8. He says, well, we were just at the park all day. And I said, well, what were you drinking water? He says, well, he was drinking Coke. He was drinking Diet Pop all day. I said, how many? So, he had about 3 or 4, big bottles of it. The child went into a coma. I said, we can get it to the hospital, take the child to the hospital right away. And the child did survive, but it went into a coma. It was in a coma for weeks, from this aspartame. So avoid it as much as possible. It's just one of the worst things. I mean, you look at people who, Donald Trump's a prime example, okay? He drinks, I forget how many Diet Pops a day. Did he lose weight? Oh my gosh, no. So all it does is create more hyperinsulinemia and creates more weight. It's diet. There's no diet anything to it. It's just absurd. I mean, America is probably the highest consumer of Diet Pop in the world. I mean, I don't know anybody who drinks more than they do. And look at the obesity there. It's already at 65, 70%. I mean, it's just so obvious. But anyway, xylitol is in there for the flavor. Okay, and we wanted a little bit of sweetness in there. And xylitol we found to be, from our research, probably the, like I say, the lowest glycemic index, there you go, of any sweetener that we found. If we found something better, we'd be happy to change it. But we did there's very little in there. I'll tell you that, very, very little. But it's just enough just to give it a little, enhance the flavor a little bit. And that was basically it. Now, xylitol can come from two sources. It can come from the birch tree or it can come from corn. Maybe more sources, but I know those two. And we made sure ours didn't come from genetically modified corn, so that makes a difference too. But like I say, there's very little xylitol in there whatsoever. And okay, one more thing I want to say about that. There's some gums out there I saw, and they say xylitol. And then I looked, and one of the ingredients is NutraSweet, aspartame. I go, wait a minute, why don't they tell you it's got aspartame in it? They're saying it's xylitol. It's just such deceptive advertising, you know. Anyway, okay, sorry, go ahead.